Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Thank you to the sponsors of this event, to Jeff, for his remarks. I see Jeff Clements as the Tom Paine today for our democracy. He sounded the alarm before others were even looking at this case. He wrote the most powerful brief before the Supreme Court and Citizens United VFEC, and I'm proud to be working with him on this campaign at freespeechforpeople.org. Before I go further, though, I'd like to try to see if we can help Justice Kennedy out in understanding the difference between a person and a corporation. So if you are a person, would you please stand? Thank you, thank you. He may be seeing this video at some point, so I want to make sure we... Now, thank you for all the people in the room for standing. Now, if you are a corporation, will you please stand? I invite finding out more about you as a corporation, but the reality is corporations, as we know, are not living, breathing human beings. They do not have the qualities like you and I. They, in fact, as Jeff highlighted, are state-based entities with state-based advantages, limited liability, perpetual life, the ability to aggregate wealth and distribute wealth. These are qualities that we as human beings do not have. And I think that's what's so very dangerous when we assign the rights of personhood to corporations in our Constitution and in our First Amendment. And that's what we're about at freespeechforpeople.org, to reclaim the First Amendment for people, to restore it to its original purpose, to protect people, not corporations. I'd like to introduce a video that helped launch this campaign. We launched this campaign moments after the court issued its ruling. We were preparing for this because we knew there was the real potential that the court was going to go over the cliff as it did. And we wanted to be ready the moment it did to signal that there was another way for us to go, we the people, not we the corporations. So we launched this site on that very day, and we had the video right there on the homepage. We're going to play it now.
Do you think corporations are people?
No.
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 Absolutely not.
It's a different animal.
They're not people. They don't have the same rights as people.
I've worked in corporate America for years. I think they're just inanimate objects. They don't have any living or breathing rights as I do.
They do everything people do except breathe, die, and go to jail for dumping 1.3 million pounds of PCBs into the Hudson River.
Most people understand that democracy is for citizens, for real-life human beings. Most people understand that corporations are not people. And yet, the United States Supreme Court in the Citizens United case has now just determined that private for-profit corporations are citizens armed with political rights.
For more than 100 years, laws have stood to limit corporate donations to political candidates and campaigns. For more than 100 years.
This is about the people they represent, who live in a democracy and who deserve a political system where their views and their interests are not completely drowned out by corporate spending.
What is a corporation?
What is a corporation? Well, a corporation has always been defined as a matter of law, as an artificial entity. Up until the Roberts Court, we have an unbroken line of precedent going back to the beginning saying that a corporation is something that's been created by the people, by the states, for the purposes of achieving our objectives as people. And now suddenly the Supreme Court has turned it into a Frankenstein monster and said that this creature of the people, this creature of the state, can intervene in our politics and spend its money as it pleases. That's an extraordinarily dangerous thing.
Good. What's the matter? Give him the...
In 2008, the Fortune 100 corporations had $600 billion in profits. Now imagine that those top 100 companies decided to spend a modest 1% of their profits to intervene in our politics and to get their way. Well, that would mean $6 billion, or double what the Obama campaign spent, the McCain campaign spent, and every candidate for House and Senate.
Corporations have free speech, but they can't speak like you and me. They don't have mouths or hands. Instead, they must speak with the only way they can, through billions and billions of dollars.
And I think if we were to imagine a world where corporations could spend a never-ending source of their corporate treasuries on campaigns, on elections, and on public policy, then the people would completely lose our voice where we thought we actually had a voice here in this democracy. It would just be gone.
They're getting away with giving so much money now.
Yeah, I don't think you need corporations directly funding campaigns.
Corporations are only interested in making a profit for themselves.
They're not driven by the American people for the American people. They're driven for profit.
That kind of squashes the little guy, and I don't think that was in our founding fathers' ideas when they wrote the Constitution.
The Supreme Court has had its say. Now it's our turn.
To take matters into our own hands, to enact a constitutional amendment that once and for all declares that we the people govern our elections and our campaigns, not we the corporation.
Now is the time for us to put in motion a great popular movement to amend the Constitution to defend democracy against the champions of corporate plutocracy. Go to freespeechforpeople.org and find out how you can help us reclaim the First Amendment for people and defend our democracy.
So since we've launched this campaign, tens of thousands of people across the country have joined us already, signing up at our website and joining our resolution calling for an amendment to the Constitution. We have engaged in public education events, including this one here, like this one here, and we intend to do many more around the country, town hall meetings where we create a national dialogue as to the state of corporations in our society and in our democracy and what we need to do to reclaim our First Amendment. Donna Edwards, as you saw, Congresswoman Donna Edwards from Maryland, as Jeff referenced, has introduced already an amendment that we worked with her on. It is narrower than the one that we'd like to see, ultimately, because it only deals with Citizens United, and we're talking about really challenging the entire corporate rights doctrine under the First Amendment. But it's an important first step, and she, along with Congressman John Conyers Jr., have pushed it forward, and they intend to get a hearing before the House Judiciary Committee in the near future. And there are, as Jeff has said, now 23 co-sponsors of it. On the Senate side, as Jeff highlighted, Senator Kerry has already given testimony before the Senate Rules Committee saying that we must have an amendment. Senators Udall and Dodd have already introduced an amendment. But we need to bring this to the local level, because clearly, at the end of the day, if we're going to have an amendment to the Constitution, there has to be organizing happening at the local level. There has to be a broad-based grassroots movement. And we're intent on doing that at Voter Action, which is a national voting rights organization we've joined with Public Citizen, with the Center for Corporate Policy, with the American Independent Business Alliance, which is an alternative to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and many others in terms of the public interest community who are ready to take this route. And we think it's a critical one to take. But we also believe that it's critical that citizens at the local level do what they can with their time to organize on this question, to come out for events like these, but even to help do organizing at the local level with their neighbors, with their friends. Here in Massachusetts, we have a unique opportunity because we already have a leader in the state Senate who will be introducing a resolution calling on Congress to pass a constitutional amendment and send it to the states for ratification. And that model resolution will be a model for the country, really, in terms of other state legislatures. And that's from State Senator Jamie Eldridge. He will be the one introducing it. And I think it's critical that we have that leadership, and it will be a signal to state legislators around the country what they can do to do this. So, Jamie, I'd like to invite you, if you'd like to say a few remarks about your ideas on this, just so that people know further what you're about to do. I really think it's important to hear from the leader on this in the state legislature here in Massachusetts.
Great, thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, Jeff, and I really appreciate your explaining what you're working on the federal level. And I do think it's, very important that we also take action on the state level. And so, just in our conversation before the ceremony began, Representative Atkins and I spoke about filing, myself as the Senate sponsor and Representative Atkins as the House sponsor, for a resolution following the model resolution that can be found at freespeechforpeople.org. We're also going to be working on disclosure legislation requiring at the very least, if corporations are going to be getting more involved in referenda, in political campaigns, that they have to disclose who the CEO is who's putting money behind these kind of programs, and seeing if there's anything we can do in addition at the state level. I do agree that the solution here really, quite honestly, is the federal level in this constitutional amendment process. But at the very least, for Massachusetts, represented by the people and as represented by its legislators, to stand up to say that this decision was really outrageous and we really need to fight back, and we need to fight back now. So we're going to be working on that, and I think the only thing that I would say, and I think what really hit me in the gut on this decision, and having the time to think about it since the decision, is that we already at the State House go up against corporate special interests every day. Measures as simple as expanding the bottle bill, to fighting for real universal single-payer health care, to taking on special interests like the film industry tax break. We already have massive obstacles and a real difficulty in challenging these corporate interests. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like once corporations start spending money on campaigns, whether political campaigns or referenda. It's truly disturbing. So I think we need to take action immediately. I'm really honored to work with John and Jeff on this, and look forward to working with all of you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. We're privileged to be working with you. And in addition to this field organizing work that we intend to do all around the country, we also are working with the legal community to build the support among law professors and lawyers who recognize that what the court has done here over the past 30 years is antithetical to what the framers intended with the First Amendment, and antithetical to the first 200 years of our nation's history. And so alongside the grassroots movement we're building will be that legal community support.